place?
It's almost nighttime.
Oh, it is. It is nighttime, yes.
When you get a certain age, you know, you are for your
Oh, I wouldn't know. That's many years away.
But she just came from Sweden, so right now it's in the morning sometime. Midnight.
Big difference time-wise?
6 hours from here.
I'd say it's about 8. No? Oh, never mind. That's not interesting.
Well, hi everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Mel Simons. It is my very good pleasure to be a moderator with two of the prettiest Bond girls ever. To my right, this lovely lady is an actress, a model, dynamite lady. Would you help me welcome the lovely MAUD Adams, please? To my left is another dynamite-looking lady, an actress, a singer, an all-around talent. Let's welcome BRITT EKLAND, everybody. Now, I know you're all anxious to get to Man with the Golden Gun, and we will get to that very, very shortly. Then you're going to see the movie in here. The movie will be shown in here. I have never met anybody that was born in Sweden. Both of you gals were born in Sweden.
Where have you been all your life?
I'm a Bostonian. We're a little bit slower than the average person. But, Maud, let's start with you. What part of Sweden were you born? And tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Oh my. I was born in the northern part of Sweden, way up north, just south of the Arctic Circle. I have all my families there, and they are still living there, and I still have a home there. I go back every year at least, used to go back often, and that's where I'm going when I'm gone.
Very nice. Britt, how about you? What part of Sweden? And tell us a little bit about your childhood.
I was born in the Big Apple, Stockholm.
Right.
And someone is very happy about that. I had a fantastic childhood. I own a home in the archipelago outside Stockholm. I've owned it since 1969, and I spend at least 3 months of the year there, and love it, of course.
How come you talk with an accent and you don't?
I do.
But you're not as pronounced as Britt.
She spends more time in Sweden than I do.
I got you.
I'll tell you the truth, okay? Yeah. And Maud knows that this is the truth. When we were both young, we've known each other for 100 years. Maud wanted to, and all rightly, did American TV. And she was told by her agent that she had to learn to talk with an American accent. And she did. And I lived in London, and I learned to speak English with an English accent. And I decided that I will never get rid of my Swedish accents. If they don't like me the way I am, you know, I was going to say, you know, I'm not going to keep my fingers on there.
I know, but you never really get rid of it. I mean, I have somewhat of an American accent.
No, you have.
It's not regional. Everybody knows I'm not.
Never lose your accents. It's part of your charm, both of you.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to talk about accents, I have a Swedish accent. So does she. And they're quite different.
I
mean, in Sweden, when we speak Swedish, which we do together all the time,
let me hear you both say a couple of sentences in your native tongue.
I'm going to ask Maud how her day was, and I'll tell her how mine was. Hur tyckte du det var idag?
Det var väl okej, det var så där, jag vet inte riktigt, ungefär.
Jag tyckte det var fantastiskt.
Ja, men så är det.
Did you all understand that conversation? I'm going to ask you both the same question. Going back to your childhood, did you have any aspirations to be an entertainer? Maud, we'll start with you.
Not at all. I never thought it would be within my reach, obviously. I grew up thinking that I would be an architect maybe, or a teacher. And, you know, it just didn't even exist. I mean, there were no theatrical schools, nothing like that. I played the piano. Maybe I would be a pianist, but that's it.
Britt, same question.
I wanted to become a vet. However, when they told me that it would be another 7 years of studying after I left school, I said no. And I took the quickest way out of school, no major masters or universities, out. When I was 17, that was it.
Well, you both had different aspirations, so how did show business begin with you, Maud?
I was a student. I was about to get my baccalaureate, whatever that is here.
Yes, you're much smarter than me. I never did.
Studying history, languages, and all kinds of things, art. And one in my hometown, a photographer used to take photographs of me sometimes, and I would local fashion shows. I would be a model. I was about 15 years old, and he sent my picture into. No, by this time when he started, but when I was 17, he sent my picture into a Model of the Year contest in Sweden, in a fashion magazine, and I was offered a necklace if I accepted. When I heard that I was part of this, I said, of course, I'll take it because it's not going to go anywhere. I ended up winning the damn thing. And then the problem became talking my parents into leaving school and going to Stockholm and working for the magazine and also having a contract with the magazine. And they would guarantee salary for me for a year. And I was living with this old spinster who took care of me. And I promised my parents I would go to night school to finish my degree, and that never happened because I was very, very busy really fast. And I met somebody called Eileen Ford, who was a famous model.
Very famous, sure.
Fairly soon, and she and her husband Jerry followed my career. I mean, they actually coached me to go to Paris and get all the required covers from all over the world, all over Europe. And then they brought me to New York when I was 21 years old. And after that, I was doing quite a bit of work in New York, and I was doing television commercials as well. And a woman called Leslie Caron, do you remember her?
Sure.
Yes.
Was married to a man called Michael Laughlin. He was a producer, and he was doing a movie called The Christian Licorice Store. And she said to him, you should check out Maud Adams. She is really pretty, and I guess that's all it took at the time, but whatever. And they called me out of the blue and asked me would I come and test for the movie with Beau Bridges. I thought they were nuts to start with, of course. But I did take the chance, and I went to Los Angeles, and I tested with him, and I got this part. A lead in a full feature movie that CBS produced. It was unbelievable to me at the time, still is, but that's what started my career.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Britt, same question.
Beau Bridges played my father.
Wow.
In The Great Valendas, which was...
But he's the same age.
Doesn't matter, I look very young, don't be scared.
She's talking about his father.
This has been a paid political announcement. So how did you go from being hopefully a veterinarian, how did show business enter your life?
I hated school, I hated authority. One of my best mates in school, her sister, was one of the first, in those days they were called hallåor, which means that they were like
announcer.
A TV announcer. And her sister was my best friend, and Swedish television in its infancy had decided to create a program for young people in black and white, of course. And so a couple of people from my school, I went to an all-girls school, but she collected us and we did a show. every couple of weeks for television. And then, you know, they wanted to photograph me like all photographers, and you did the thing where you go, a shoulder, very saucy those days. And I went into drama school for 2 years, and then I went with a, I guess, a variety show called Button Up, Knäpp Upp, and I toured Sweden for
comedy show.
For about 9 months everywhere, and then an Italian producer saw me and said, "We'd like you in a film with Alberto Sordi," and it meant that I had to stand on by a train going like this, and the next thing I know is I'm touring still. Is that this producer called and said, "You know, we're offering you a movie in Italy," and I went to my producer and I said, "You know, I've been offered an opportunity to leave Sweden and go into movies." And he said, "Okay, if you find a replacement, you can go." And I did, and I left. And I went to Rome, and I did the movie, and then I'm sitting on Via Veneto with an American girlfriend, sipping cappuccinos, and a man comes up and says, are you interested in a contract in Hollywood? And I said, "Yes, that's the bear," but I didn't say that. I said, "Yes, I'm interested." It's too fast for you, is it? So I was flown to New York, but they said, "You've got to go down to the American Embassy and get your visa." This is in Rome. So the American Embassy is at the bottom of Via Veneto, a very famous street. And it was completely covered with people, so I couldn't get in. And the reason was that that was the day John Kennedy was shot. So we all know the date of that.
Sure do.
And I went to New York and I studied and worked for 3 weeks and went home for Christmas. And then my father, I went on skiing holiday because I love skiing. And he called me and he said, "You got a telegram from 20th Century Fox. You have a 7-year contract, come back immediately." And they sent me to London, and I met Peter Sellers, and we married after 10 days, and that's it.
Maud, what was your first movie in the States?
The Christian Liquor Store.
Tell us about that movie.
Oh, you know what? It was right after Easy Rider, and the studios had no idea what to do with all these young people in Hollywood anymore. So they decided to throw money at this stupid movie that really went nowhere with Gilbert Roland, and it was a very, very confusing script, and I played a photographer who was covering a tennis player, Bo Bridges, and we ended up having an affair, of course. I mean, that's part of the story. But then it went into some Never Never Land, and the movie, I haven't seen it since it came out, and that's a long time ago. But after that, I was not a member of the union. I mean, I was doing television commercials, but I was not a member of SAG, and I couldn't be one right away. You're not allowed to do work unless you're a member in union movies. So I ended up doing 2 Canadian films, Mahoney's Estate and U-Turn, one with Sam Waterston, you all know. And at that point, I was a Screen Actors Guild member, and next thing I knew, I'm still working as a model in New York, and I'm told that I have an agent. I'm told that I have an audition for The Man with Golden Gun. And I go there, and I meet with Cubby Broccoli and a bunch of casting people, of course. I don't know any of them. What happened to me is that one of the masters at the table, I'm not sure who was who, said to me, "You don't realize that we met before." I said, "No, I don't think so." And I said, "I would know." And he said, "No, we have met before." "Okay, what's your name?" "Cubby Broccoli." "Aha." Okay, and then I realized that I'd been invited out to Pinewood Studios for lunch a few months before that by a Swedish friend of mine. And while we were there, he said he was a friend of Cubby's, and would you like to see the James Bond set? Because nobody's shooting right now, and we can take a tour. So he took me around there, and I met some people, including apparently Cubby Broccoli, but I didn't know who he was because I had not seen the James Bond movie before that. And I didn't know they were so important. And all of a sudden, I am now thinking, oh, here I am for the producer for this movie, and I don't even know who he is. But he was very friendly, and he said, you know, I'd like you to come to my hotel. Okay. Well, I don't think I want to do that, right? To meet my wife. Okay, so I said, well, that sounds better. Where we're going to say, he said, Plaza Hotel. Okay, so, but I still go there sort of feeling rather worried about the whole situation. I get into this suite, and sure enough, there is Dana Rocco. As it turned out, Dana approved of all the actors during that time, including the Bonds. I mean, she's the one that picked Sean Connery, right?
Good choice.
Yeah, and she approved of me apparently because I got the part. But that's where it gets interesting. So I get the part. And Britt, who had also auditioned for this part, or for the James Bond movie, reading in the Hollywood Reporter that Swedish Maud Adams is cast in the Bond movie. She's rather pissed at this point, obviously, right? But she gets the part, another part in the Bond movie. So the first time I meet Britt is when I'm flying from New York at that point. I'm living in New York to London, and in London we're picking up some actors, including Britt, and we're going to Thailand for our location shoot. Britt gets on the plane, and she comes in and she zeroes in on me. She says, "I hated you when I first heard your name."
Wow. No, really?
Okay, that's Britt. I mean, she's like, so my heart is sinking. I said, my God, we're going to spend 3 months together. What am I going to do? And then she says, you know, and then she sat down and said, you know, I read in Hollywood Reporter that you had gotten a part in the James Bond movie, and I was sure they were not going to cast another Swedish actress in the Bond movie. So I thought I lost the part. So that was her justification. And then, of course, after that, we chatted for like the whole way to Thailand, and we were best friends when we arrived, and we still are.
Isn't that nice? Britt, actually a double question for you. What was your first movie in the States? And then tell us about Man with the Golden Gun, how that happened.
First movie in the States. Well, that's a sort of, okay, the first thing I did in the States was with Peter Falk. He had a TV series. God, I wish I could remember what it's called. But
Columbo?
Sorry?
Trials of O'Brien back then?
I can't hear you when you all talk together, one at a time.
Columbo.
No! Way before Columbo.
Trials of O'Brien.
O'Brien, Trials of O'Brien. That was a TV series in black and white, and I was flown over. I had just married Peter Sellers, and I was flown over to do 2 parts that will be shot in color for the first time on American television. Then they put them together and they put them out as a movie. So it doesn't really ring true, but that was, you know, I were in New York and shot it in New York, so that's my answer.
Mentioning Peter Sellers, you had a very controversial marriage with him.
Not at all.
Well, tell us about it.
Well, tell me, why would you consider it controversial?
Well, that's what I had heard and read, that it was controversial.
Yes, but tell me what it was.
Well, I can't go into detail. I thought maybe you would.
Why not? I don't think it was controversial. He was a perfectly normal man who did the normal things a man does to his wife.
You can stop right there, I think.
And produce a very nice child, you get the 2 of you.
We have a beautiful daughter. The fact that he was not, you know, he should have been on lithium, but I only found that out now, like in the 90s.
He was mercurial.
He was, yeah, he was not quite normal.
Yeah, I had heard that. I think you're being nice when you say that.
But it wasn't controversial, because controversial would be that he would be running away for weeks on a time and come back with another man and or a woman and or a child. No, that didn't happen. No.
Well, if you could describe Peter in maybe just a few words, what was he like personally?
There was no Peter Sellers personally. He was only a character that he played at the time. And if you look on internet and Google, he admitted himself. He had no personality. He could only act the character at the dinner party, or with friends, or with the royals. There was no Peter Sellers.
Sadly, that's true.
And he was so good as an actor.
He was an imitator.
Well, who did he imitate?
Whoever he was told to imitate.
Oh, I see what you're saying. The Man with the Golden Gun is one of my very favorite James Bond movies. I think there's either 24 or 25 Bond movies, and I put that as one of the most popular. Your personal experience, MAUD, tell us about working in that movie, and who was James Bond in that movie?
Roger Moore.
What was he like as a person?
Great.
That good, huh?
We both loved Roger. He was, it's hard to say that, but he was a really fabulous man.
I would say next to the original James Bond, he was my second favorite.
Yeah.
How did the cast get along? What was it like to work with others?
We really had a good time. And you know, Britt and I, we had suites right next to each other. You had 2 babies with you, and a nanny. And a nanny. I was by myself across the hallway from her. We spent every night together eating, the whole family. And sometimes we had joint dinners with Roger Moore and his wife, and also Christopher Lee and his wife. The thing is that you and I, we were always gossiping in Swedish. Like, we young girls, what do? We gossip, especially when we're a little nervous. And
but if you remember rightly, there was one small problem.
Yes.
Christopher Lee speaks Scandinavian. He was married to a Danish woman called Brigitte.
And he's very smart. He speaks Danish, which is very close to Swedish. And we used to make fun of him, which is terrible to say now. I mean, the man wore a wig and he was practicing his, his scales every morning. And it was easy to make fun of him, but honestly, I got to know him really well afterwards, and I love him. He's a wonderful man, very talented.
That's so nice to hear. That was the first time I ever saw Hervé Villachet, her tattoo. What was he like as a person? Did either of you have much contact with him?
Well, only in the morning when he would come home after being out all night in Bangkok. Hervé.
Oh, Hervé. Oh.
That's a good That's a good
You know, we were heading off for work, and he would be rolling in wherever he'd been all night.
He loved us, but you know, we weren't available.
Yeah. He did drawings of us. He would sort of slide them underneath our doors, bedroom doors in the morning. There would be a drawing of him. And of course, Roger Moore used to tell a story all the time. But he loved stories, of course, Roger Moore, and they were all fake. But he would say that in an accent, but Hervé, I would say, but Hervé, if you ever make love to me and I find out, you're in trouble.
Great line.
Not my story, but Moore's story.
But can I tell you that story was actually first told by Anita Ekberg 100 years earlier.
Oh, really? I guess Roger wasn't all that original.
She was Swedish also, wasn't she?
Yes, she was.
Did either of you get to know her over the years?
Did we know?
No.
Didn't meet her?
No, we're a generation before that.
Yeah. We'll be watching the movie very, very shortly. I want to ask you both, is there anything special that we should be looking for? Maybe some things where you had to do many takes? Any special memories along that line? MAUD?
Britt has a good one. You almost got blown up.
Well, before you do a round, particularly when there are explosives, you go through them with the prop master, and he'll say, when you hit this tree, there will be an explosive right as you pass it. So keep the tempo. Here we have another one. And there is another one. So let's say there's 4 of them, and you're running and looking back and running and bang, bang, bang. And of course, I might have been a bit slow, running in wedges and a bikini, not easy. So one went off and literally blazed my butt. So which you would do, whether you're an actress or not, you would just throw yourself on the ground like this. And Roger had me by the hand, and he just grabbed me and pulled me up and kept running. And that's in the film. So when the end comes, when we run out of this explosive inferno, then you know, then just look for that. How he pulls me out. That's the truth.
We'll look for that in the movie.
You did rescue her.
Yes, he did. No, he did.
So I'm assuming that you both feel it was a very pleasant experience working in that movie. Am I correct, Maud?
Oh, yes. It's a memory I will keep forever.
Nice. Britt, do you feel the same?
I wouldn't call it pleasant. I would call it unbelievable.
Great. Nice way to express it. Well, in the next few minutes before we see the movie, folks, I'd like to open it up to you folks. If you'd be good enough to raise your hand and ask you these lovely ladies the question. Sir, we'll start with you.
Yeah, Maud, and you did a movie about the world of tattooing, right?
Unfortunately.
Not a good experience, Maud?
It was a difficult experience.
How
Because
so?
I've never worked with an actor who was so into the role that they could sort of shed it when they were not working.
May I ask you who that actor was?
I don't remember.
Bruce Dern.
Yes, of course, Bruce
Oh,
Dern.
Bruce Dern,
I didn't want to
yeah.
mention their names, but of course, yes. No, Bruce Dern was very intense. It was hard to sort of work with somebody. It was, I mean, the movie is about a man being obsessed about a woman, and I'm the woman who's obsessed with it. So when the camera stopped rolling, Bruce Dern was still obsessed.
Good for him.
It was a difficult job. But, you know, we're still friends. But, you know, after when we made the movie, also made some claims about, oh, the movie, the love